Your head's in front of a toilet.
Welcome to Carter's Retro Reviews. This week, we're doing a review from
Springbrook National Park.
Thanks, Pat. Beamsy's in there, currently taking a dump. Hey, Beamsy, say hey.
Fuck you.
Fuck you, I'm taking a shit.
I gotta concentrate. It's a long drop. I want to hear the splash.
Okay, so one thing to note, everyone, is that these are, what do they call? They're environmentally safe toilets. What do they call them?
Long drops.
Beamsy is currently doing a long drop. So what actually happens is there's no water or anything. It's ultimately just a big hole that goes right down below the ground there.
It's a holy shit.
And there's just a whole bunch of shit that he's shitting on too. It sounds like a bad joke. I think there's people coming too. Yeah, well, I think they
come to use the long drop.
They come to use the long drop.
That's why you come here.
Yeah. That's the only reason you come here. People come from miles around just to do a long drop. It is, yeah. Some people, go to like theme parks and that sort of thing to go on the rides. You go to a movie. You see a movie. Some people come here for the long drop. Beebsy?
Oh, he's fallen down.
Have you fallen in there, man? We've lost him. Shit!
You guys are not funny, eh?
Do you want to say hello for the camera at least?
No.
You know what? If there is ever a great intro to one of my reviews, I think this is it. Hey. Hey, don't worry, next week's review is going to have this intro painted all over it. Welcome to Season 2, bitches. This game is a little special. I don't mean it catches the small bus to school or is a little slower than the rest of us, no. There are hundreds of Nintendo fanboys who have their own channels and love to show the best and worst of their dearly beloved Nintendo. And yes, those of us who were on the other side of the fence growing up with the Sega Master System missed out on some seriously good titles, but you NES fan kids also missed out on some seriously good titles on the Sega Master System. And it's games like this that make me do reviews in the first place. I can review obscure games until the cows come home, but if none of them truly shine, what does it matter? Well, I'm writing on the fact that this game was probably overlooked quite severely when it came out. It's a shmup, sure, but not exactly how I envisaged a shmup to be. Not to mention, I'm not a fan of that word. It sounds so fucking hipster that every time I say it, I feel like I'm losing credibility. You start out in a Jeep, and with each level you progress to different vehicles, boats, helicopters, etc. It handles well, it looks good, it's fun, and you have 2 levels to shoot at. The bullet level, which is right in front of you, and you have missiles for when you have to fuck shit up in the sky. The other nice thing is your ability to control the missiles in the air. Sega had a pretty good thing going where they would release a game in the arcade, tested the waters, and then ported it to its consoles. Where this gets interesting is this derives from a game in the arcade, but instead of it being a straight port, it's completely different. The story is still the same, and the levels are a little similar, but the perspective is completely different. In the arcade, the first-person perspective was a light gun that you shoot directly at the screen. On the Sega Master System, it was a third-person, top-down perspective. So you wouldn't be able to make any sort of connection this had anything to do with the original arcade game, I mean, more or less. Not to mention the music's actually better on the Master System. The quality of the music is shitty midis, but the songs themselves are far better and amp you up to be better at this game. On top of that, the game feels like it actually gives you a fair go. In my first go, I still managed to get to level 5, which wasn't a bad effort considering I played this a lot as a kid. I'll get a better score and potentially finish the game in a few attempts, but it's still fun to go back to regardless. I was finding out later in the game that your movements aren't fast enough to dodge the bullets, so you have to strategically work out a way to avoid that problem. I figured it out, but it took me a few goes. You also have enemy trucks that sneak up from you behind and POW! Right in the kisser. It's a good method of making me move forward instead of making me hold back. For its time, the enemies are surprisingly varied as well as making each level seem more unique. I have also been told that this game does come in a 3D flavour when you hold down A and B, then turn on the console. This game was released in 1991, and not that there was much going on apart from the exploding grunge scene into the mainstream. Or that Jedward were born that year, but I possibly couldn't give less fucks about that. Michael Landon died, and a whole bunch of films like T2, Hot Shots, Silence of the Lambs, City Slickers were all prevalent in our cinemas. The original game was released in the arcade in 1989, and that year was far more interesting to talk about. You had Typhoon Gay, which killed around 800 people in Thailand, which was the first typhoon to reach land in its area since 1891. You had the Phillips disaster, which was a devastating series of explosions that killed 23 people from some factory in the US that makes high-density polyethylene. Not to mention 2 big bus accidents in Australia, the Grafton bus crash, which killed 21 people due to a truck driver having 80, that's 80, times more than the therapeutic level of ephedrine to keep himself awake and was driving on the wrong side of the road, and the Kempsey bus crash where 2 coaches collided, killing 35 people. I know what you're thinking. What the fuck is this, the news? What does this have to do with the game? It's not always about the game. Would I recommend this game? Absolutely, bro. It's a fun game that is a hidden gem in a mess of games and has been criminally overlooked. As always, thank you very much for watching. Click on the TV to see the last review, and click on the name underneath the television if you'd like to subscribe.